Right. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Football Outsiders live stream for February 14th, 2022, the day after Super Bowl 56. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams. Ian O'Connor is here. We're going to break it all down with the most important plays, coaching decisions, and such. Thank you if you are watching right now on the Twitch or YouTube, whether it's Twitter or Facebook. Don't forget to make some comments. Ask some questions. We want to talk all about the game. Please like and subscribe to this show on YouTube or Twitch or wherever you're watching. If you're listening to this afterwards on the Football Outsiders Podcast Network, please remember to like and subscribe to the show. And remember, just because the season is over does not mean it is the end of content on Football Outsiders, and it doesn't mean it is the end of these streams. We're going to have draft streams with Mike Tanier and Derek Klassen coming up, and we're going to have some free agency previews starting this Wednesday. We're going to go division by division for the next 4 weeks on Wednesday and Thursday. So this Wednesday, join me, Mike, and Vince Verhey, and we'll talk about the NFC West. That's what's coming up. But first, let's talk about the team from the NFC West that won the Super Bowl. It was a huge game, good storylines, emotions throughout. Let's go back to the beginning. The first drive was a punt. Cincinnati, the Rams punted. Cincinnati got the ball near midfield, and within 3 plays, they faced a 4th and 1. And you know what we like to talk about on this show, which is 4th and 1 decisions. And Zach Taylor, who actually was one of the more conservative coaches in the league, went aggressive. I think this is a good example of how the league as a whole has gotten more aggressive over the last 4 years, because this is the kind of decision that would have been seen as aggressive back in the day, but nowadays it's seen as sort of old hat.
Yeah, especially on their first drive of the game. It's one of those where I'm not really surprised that he went for it, but wouldn't be surprised to see him punt at the same time. You mentioned not really been super aggressive. He came into this game, or in the regular season, was 21st in our CCI metric, which is the 4th down decision making. Sean McVay was 23rd. So these two coaches are very close. I think Taylor is seen a little bit more aggressive than McVay, even though they are pretty close in that CCI metric. He's had some really good calls this year, and this was a good one. Again, 4th and 1 right across midfield, decides to go for it. 3.7% increase in pre-snap win probability. It was the second best of this game, and was a really good one. It's a big number, 3.7 to open or that early in the game, being near midfield of 4th and 1, kind of all lines up. With one of those where punting, can flip the field a little bit, but it really isn't worth as much as people think that it is in that situation. So didn't get it, but it was a really good call, and he kind of kept that mentality going forward on 4th down.
Yeah, Ernest Jones slapped it away. Overall, this is going to come up again and again, and we're talking about this game. But overall, the Bengals were lousy in short yardage. They only converted 3 out of 10 opportunities on 1 and 2 yards to go, whether that's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th down. So the Rams did make it down. They started at midfield, made it down for a touchdown. The Bengals finally went to a single high look, and OBJ ended up with Mike Hilton covering him, where they had this interesting play where they had like 2 rovers in the middle of the field in man coverage. They only rushed 3, but 2 guys were just sort of waiting at the sticks for mesh or something. And instead, they went with a long fade to OBJ in the end zone for the first touchdown. So the Bengals then came back, kicked a field goal on their next drive, and then the Rams had another touchdown as Matthew Stafford found Cooper Kupp. Then they botched the extra point when Johnny Hekker could not hang on to the hold. And that made it 13-3. And the Bengals responded with their own score. And I love halfback option pass. I love it so much. Joe Mixon with the halfback option pass to T. Higgins. That made it 13-10 Rams, and won a lot of people money who bet the anytime passer prop of over 2.5 passers. Now, what would have been really interesting would have been if they didn't have the Mixon throw. Would they have counted the Johnny Hekker pass on the aborted extra point to score the 2.5 anytime over prop on passers. My guess is that it would not have counted, but it may have been different by the book. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the data, the way it comes in, looked at it, it counts it on a couple different places, counted that as a straight up 2-point attempt, not even mentioning aborted, extra point or snap or anything like that. So that's an interesting point. And then too, Joe Mixon, I think when I saw anytime or any other position player pass was like plus 1,400 as well, or any other position player passing touchdown. So a big win there for some people too.
Yeah, Bob Broccoli points out it looked like the Bengals had life. They had a 5-yard button hook that went for about 20. I think he's talking about the Jamar Chase play, which actually went longer than that. Stafford tried to make another play at the end of the half. He threw it deep to Van Jefferson, but was picked off by Jesse Bates. That was basically an arm punt. I don't really have a problem with that interception because nobody was open and it was 3rd and long, and they were going to have to punt on the next play anyway. And then Vernon Hargreaves decided to run in from the sideline, getting a 10-yard penalty. So the Bengals started on the 10-yard line anyway, which, sounds like a good punt to me.
Yeah.
Then we hit halftime, and an amazing halftime show, which everybody got into an argument about on the internet about which generation gets to claim Eminem and Dr. Dre as their own. That is a weird argument to have, but it did show how rap music has become respectable music for old people because people like me are old people. I'm an old person now. And Tom Brahan has a really good article at stereogum.com about the meaning of the halftime show that I recommend to everybody. I also recommend Tom's number ones column. If you like music, stereogum.com, the number ones. He's going through every number one hit of all time, talking about them. It's a really good column if you're interested in things for music. We'll get to Bob's talking about Evan McPherson and what he needed for a game-tying field goal at the end, but we'll get to that. Let's go through the second half from the beginning. Joe Burrow came out slinging, and he connected with T. Higgins for a huge 75-yard touchdown. Controversial, because what looked at first like Jalen Ramsey just stumbling on his feet ended up being T. Higgins grabbing Ramsey by the face mask and pulling him down. So it absolutely should have been offensive pass interference, but this was the second most impactful play of the game.
Yeah, it ended up being 17%, obviously, is huge there. It's a long touchdown, first down, 1st and 10, first play of the second half of the third quarter there. Took the Bengals from being underdogs to win, obviously trailing by 36.5% up to 53.5%. So put them just over 50%, making them the favorites there. I think this is something too that Frank Frigo here at EdjSports is covering in his Risky Business column, looking at the impact of that on the potential outcomes, looking at, what is the likelihood of different scoring outcomes, especially with the spread being, I think it closed, it got to 4, up to 4 again, went to 4.5. I think it closed. That touchdown could have been big in that situation. So again, second most impactful play, 17% was a big one to start the second half.
And the Bengals depended on the big play all year long, and this game was no different. So they actually outgained the Rams on a per play basis, 5.0 to 4.7. Or if you want to take out the kneel downs, it was 5.1 to 4.8. If you take out this pass for 75 yards, the Bengals only averaged 3.9 yards a play in this game. So this play was huge. And so it felt like the momentum had shifted. Now, we know momentum is mostly a load of nonsense because nobody can actually define what it means until after the fact. But what really had shifted was that Odell Beckham Jr. was injured. That's not a momentum shift. That's oh my God, the Rams are a team built around stars, and they just lost one, and now they have to throw to Skoranek. That was what really happened. And then they threw to Skoranek, and the ball went right off of Skoranek's hands and into the hands of the Bengals. And that is the number 3 most impactful play of the game by win probability.
Yep, the Rams get the ball back. They're trailing now, 1st and 10 at their own 17 after the kickoff. Intercepted, 12.7% decrease in win probability. So I mentioned the Cincinnati had just gotten up to over 50% to 53.5. The Rams were at 45.3 after that kickoff, not getting to the 25, and dropped them down to 32.6. So less than 1 out of 3 times they win the game after that interception. We know this ended up being one of those 3, came back to win, but that was absolutely huge, especially at that point in the game. You mentioned the momentum shift, if you will, at the start of the second half. So that was a very big play, again, third most impactful.
It wasn't a momentum shift. It was, hey, Odell Beckham is out, and now the Bengals had 2 huge plays in their favor. That's not a momentum shift. It's a win probability shift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Zach Taylor tried going for it again on 4th down, and this time he succeeded. So this is our second best coaching decision of the game as far as 4th downs go. 3rd quarter, 13:06 left, 4th and 1, Rams 22.
Yeah, it's a 1.9% increase. I actually think this ends up being 3rd. It looks like that might be off on our the notes here.
Our script is wrong. All right.
But that's all right. 1.9. So you think it's interesting that it's a little bit smaller than that the first one was in the beginning of the game at midfield, but the field goal there is very makeable, 22 from the 22-yard line. So you've got the chance for points versus just punting the ball and not having a chance for points at all in that other 4th and 1. So this one, they're leading at this point too, 17-13. A field goal makes it a 7-point lead instead of earlier in the game. It would have, it was a punt. They were still tied at 0, a lot of left to play. But yeah, that field goal would have been big, but converting here still gives you the chance for a touchdown, which is exactly what happened. They converted, didn't get the touchdown, ended up having to settle for a field goal, but Burrow was able to scramble up the middle. Looked like he was maybe going to get tripped up there right around the line of scrimmage, but was able to make it, get past the line. Again, 1.9% pre-snap increase. So Zach Taylor staying aggressive on 4th downs, which we'd love to see.
And people who criticized Taylor's first 4th down go when they didn't make it, of course, didn't say anything about this one, but it actually didn't help them in the long run because the next series stalled out and the Bengals had to kick a field goal anyway. The Rams then had a long drive that resulted in a field goal, and that made the game 22-16. Then we get to the 4th quarter, and McVay made a few errors according to our model when the game was 20-16 Bengals. Let's talk about the Rams punting, although these are on reasonably long yardages.
Yeah, these are ones looking at them this morning. There's a case for both sides. I think they're pretty close. There's still going to be some chunks in win probability. The first one came, it was 4th and 7 to start, or early in the 4th quarter, 14-11 left in the game, 4th and 7 at the Cincy 49. So you're across midfield. Again, punting doesn't flip the field a ton. You're down 4 as well. You've got a whole quarter to play, but ends up being a 2.9% decrease in win probability by choosing to punt. They're around 35%. So around 10-ish% relative win probability. So like you said, not a huge difference there. But still, that's one with that Rams offense against that Bengals defense that, is kind of middle of the pack, not really great. Especially with Eli Apple on the other side, which he took a lot of flack last night and then today.
Well, he talked a lot of crap. He talked a lot of, he talked a big game earlier in the playoffs against the Chiefs. Yep. So the Chiefs kind of came back at him on Twitter.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, they got their shots in, I saw. But still, choosing to punt there, was a 3%. Again, not a massive error, but still, when you're losing and you're underdog to win at that point in the game, you got to take advantage of every opportunity. And then the next one came just 4 minutes later, 4th and 4 at their own 41. This was another one, again, that could go either way. That 4th and medium with Stafford, kind of not having Odell Beckham, we mentioned, is huge. Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford found a way to make it work anyway, but a 4th and 4 here, choosing to punt, ends up being the biggest error of the weekend. Obviously just the one game, but a 5% error choosing to punt there on that 4th and 4. They were at 31, so they were even lower in win probability. So this is even bigger relative impact there. But Sean McVay makes up for it here a little bit later on.
Yeah, so the Bengals couldn't do anything in the second half of this game. The Bengals really couldn't do much because their offensive line finally shattered. The Rams started overloading the right side, and they were only sending 4 pass rushers, but they were like sending them all on the same side of the line. And they finally got Aaron Donald at the quarterback, and the Bengals weren't getting anything done on offense. So the Rams finally get the ball back for one last big drive, and they decided on this drive, screw it. Cooper Kupp is our best receiver. We're just going to go to Cooper Kupp no matter what. And the Bengals were actually playing a lot of zone coverage, and Cooper Kupp was like, hi, find me in the middle of the zone, especially a play that you have probably seen a lot on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, people showing Matthew Stafford with a no-look pass where he anticipated where Kupp was going to be and threw it before Kupp got there. But before we even got to that point, Kupp played a major role in the best coaching decision of the game.
Yeah, 4th and 1 at their own 30 for the Rams, 4:54 left. This is a pretty clear go. I wasn't sure McVay was going to do it, to be honest. And between the plays, they kind of cut away from the field and look at other things, talk about other things. So you couldn't really see what was going on. You just kind of listened. It sounded like the crowd started to get a little bit louder. The broadcaster saying, looks like they're going to leave him on the field, at least for now. The offense, that is, decides to go for it. 5.8% increase in pre-snap win probability. As we like to do, looking at kind of the risk reward, the required conversion rate was around 46% for the Rams. A 4th and 1, as we know, we've mentioned a bunch here. You're expected to convert close to 70% of the time, especially with a very good offense like the Rams. That might even be a little bit higher. That 70% is for average teams against average teams. So really good decision for McVay. Last time he was in the Super Bowl against Belichick and the Patriots, both coaches went very conservative on 4th and shorts around midfield, field goal range. And this time it was nice to see both coaches go the opposite way. And Sean McVay surprised us all here again, finished 23rd in 4th down. All of his best 4th down goes this year were on 4th and 1s. So he really didn't have, any of those, more. He had maybe a couple, but most of them were 4th and shorts. He had plenty of 4th and 1 errors as well. But this one, he made the right call, and it paid off in a big way.
Yeah, this is one of those play calls where if it didn't work, we would all be destroying McVay for it today and talking about how he outthought himself by getting fancy. But the Cooper Kupp jet sweep looked beautiful.
Yeah, he'd get the Brandon Staley treatment if they hadn't converted that loss.
The Rams make it into the red zone, and then you have some interesting penalties. Now, I saw Michael Lombardi on Twitter say there's a missed false start on the Rams on the 3rd and goal play where they called the Bengals for a defensive hold that gave the Rams 4 more downs. And he called that the biggest play of the game. I don't think so. I think the biggest missed penalty of the game is clearly the missed face mask on the 75-yard touchdown, because that was a 75-yard touchdown. Yep. And the Rams wouldn't have been in the position to need 4 more downs in the red zone at the end of the game if they had not handed that 75-yard touchdown to the Bengals. But it was a big play. It was a big officiating error, no question, that they missed that false start. But then there was a DPI that I thought was pretty obvious. And I actually think the defensive holding was pretty obvious too. People said it was questionable. I thought it was a good call. The refs swallowed their whistles for most of the game. Then all of a sudden on this drive, they brought out their whistles. But I other than missing the false start, I thought that the refs did a good job on this last drive.
Yeah, I think the first first defensive holding was the one that shouldn't have been called. I think it was Logan Wilson over the middle on Kupp. Didn't look like there was a lot, but the second one there, right in the end zone or at the goal line.
Yeah, the second one is in the red zone is on. Well, I thought the one on Kupp, the holding was, I thought that was a reasonable call. And then there was the DPI on Eli Apple on Kupp, and that was definitely EPI. And yeah, I understand. Useful was first says after everything the refs were letting go, it seemed like an egregious call because it wasn't a gigantic hold, but I don't feel like that was a questionable call. The questionable part was that they missed the false start. Yep. So Rams get it in the end zone and take the lead 23-20. I guess there was some discussion about whether the Rams should have gone for 2. In my mind, there's no way you go for 2 here, because if you kick a field goal, the other team will play conservative and try to tie the game. If you go for 2 and miss, they can win the game with a field goal. And if you go for 2 and get it, you're encouraging them to play aggressive and win the game in regulation. So by no means do you go for 2 here. You go for 1 and you take a 23-20 lead. Are you in agreement with me on this?
Yeah, we had it around, I think it was 6% in favor of the extra point, and for those exact reasons that, you're either gonna make them be conservative, or they're more likely be conservative if you kick the field goal. But to your point of, if you do get the 2-point conversion, they're going to be extremely aggressive because they have to have a touchdown to win the game.
And if you don't get it, you screwed yourself.
Yeah, and then especially the way Evan McPherson's been kicking in the playoffs. One more thing too, just on the penalties you were talking about. I think too that people are kind of, I've seen a lot of how the refs handed the LA the game. The NFL wanted LA to win it, this and that. I think too it has to do with the fact it happened so late in the game, whereas the T. Higgins one, there was so much time left in the game. So many things can happen. People look at it as, well, there's only a minute and a half left, so there's really no way the Bengals could overcome it at that point. I think it's more of an optics and kind of situation-based as well.
But the Bengals could overcome it. I mean, the Bengals got the ball back with a minute and a half left and 2 timeouts, and all they needed was a field goal to go to overtime. That is not the hardest situation.
Right.
And they almost got into Evan McPherson's field goal range. Bob Broccoli says that he heard that McPherson only needed about 10 more yards for a game-tying field goal. Unfortunately, he never got there.
Yep.
So let's talk about 2 super impactful plays. And again, I talked about the Bengals sucking on short yardage in this game. And one of the things was, listen, there's not that much difference between running backs when it comes to getting short yardage. There's some indication from history that, like, there is no such thing as a goal line back, that your ability to score touchdowns at the goal line over or under expectation is sort of random from year to year. And I don't know whether that's also true for first downs, but it was weird that they insisted on having Samaje Perine in the game instead of Joe Mixon. So let's talk about 3rd and 1 at the Rams 49, 48 seconds left.
Yeah, choosing to give it to Perine. I've seen, I think it was 5 3rd or 4th and 1 situations for the Bengals, and didn't have Mixon on the field for any of them, or maybe for one of them, something like that. I agree with you. Like, that's your number 1 running back for a reason, I guess. But this one, he gets stopped short. Perine does 3rd and 1 at just over midfield. 11.8% decrease in win probability. Again, for an impactful play this late in the game, that's not huge, but with it being just one game, it comes out as the 4th most impactful play of the game. It was a big one. It set up the 4th and 1 that came next. That there's a lot of conversation around that one for a couple different reasons, I think.
This is Aaron Donald's arm tackling Perine from behind. It was a really great play. I mean, there was another defender who helped tackle him too, but Donald basically reached from behind and got him with one arm. The man is incredible. And then the 4th down, Aaron Donald basically seals the game with the most impactful play of this Super Bowl as far as win probability.
Yep, 4th and 1, LA 49, got to have it or it's over. Cincinnati just had 1 timeout, chose not to use it afterwards, obviously. But being short, Joe Burrow just pressured, almost right away, had really nowhere to go for it. They were at 24.4% win probability before this play. The Bengals were. Obviously, they don't get it. They dropped to 0. To me, I thought, it was kind of in the heat of the moment, I thought he was just going to get sacked. Obviously, he was in the grass, but for him to just kind of think, basically, I got to get rid of this ball and just kind of toss it. Perine had a shot at it, almost, was close enough that could have caught that. And then I've seen the all 22 and the next gen stats where Jalen Ramsey fell down again, and Jamar Chase was wide open for a walk-in touchdown if Burrow had maybe 1 more second. Obviously, he didn't. He was pressured pretty heavily, but that would have been absolutely bonkers.
As everybody pointed out, the meme that went around this offseason showing Burrow with Penei Sewell throwing the ball to anybody, but Burrow without Penei Sewell missing on a throw to Chase, happened. That meme came to life on the last play of the Super Bowl. And the great run of the Bengals in the postseason ends just a little bit short. It is interesting to note that all of the teams that were lowest in DVOA among teams that made the Super Bowl played close games. Right? Those, you would expect that the worst teams by DVOA to make the Super Bowl would get blown out. But the Panthers lost by 3. The Cardinals lost by, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4, the 2008 Cardinals, the 2003 Panthers. These Bengals lost by 3. And then the Giants in 2007 won, and the Redskins in 1987 won huge. So interesting. Our pick and your pick, Edge Sports pick, also both hit. Edge Sports' pick was Rams by 3.
Yep.
And Football Outsiders FO Plus pick was Rams by 4, with the line at 4.5. So, yes, Bob Broccoli points out Ramsey had a rough game, but he did make a breakup on T. Higgins earlier that forced a field goal. He PD'd at the goal line on T. Higgins. And it shows Ramsey doesn't, he's not Revis or Stephon Gilmore. Like, he doesn't just sit on the opponent's number one receiver. He moves around a little bit, and he was on T. Higgins on a pretty big play.
That's another one that people are screenshotting, calling for what should have been a penalty too. I think he had a slight grab of the jersey, in a still shot. It looks like it, but that people using it to kind of claim that the refs again, but in motion, it's not as bad as it looks in a still shot for that reason.
The thing is, if we're going to complain that the refs play too big a role in the regular season, then we can't complain when they swallow their whistles for the stuff that's kind of ticky-tack in the postseason. Yeah. All right. Don't forget to check out the videos of Ian O'Connor doing the Coach of the Year awards. The final Edge Sports Coach of the Year was
Matt LaFleur, second year in a row, taking home the top prize. He was third in EPI and 8th in CCI, putting him on top of the rankings.
And he was my choice, actually, in the AP panel. He was my choice for Coach of the Year as well, Matt LaFleur. We can question whether we still would have voted for Matt LaFleur in the offseason, based on the special teams play in the playoffs, but based on the regular season, he was Coach of the Year.
And we give away a lot of other cool coaching awards, looking at, best decision of the season, best prospects, moving forward, things like that. So we had a lot of fun with that one as well.
So check out that on edgesports.com. All right, let's bring up the YouTube. I think YouTube also has those Edge Sports videos. Let's put up the graphic of the most impactful plays. Here we go. Most impactful plays of Super Bowl 56.
Yeah, number 9 was early in the fourth quarter. It was the 3rd and 9, the big sack for the Rams. They also had the penalty on Isaiah Prince, the unnecessary roughness, dead ball foul. So the sack combined with that penalty didn't have any impact in the play. So we included that in. There's a 9.7% decrease in win probability. Took them from 65.9 down to 56.3. Number 4 was the third down, 3rd and 1, where Perine got stopped. Yep, 11.8%. Stafford's interception we covered as well. That's 12.7% early in the
second interception. That's the one that went off of Poronic's hands.
Yep, right after that the T. Higgins touchdown. Number 2, the touchdown to T. Higgins, 75 yards, first play of the second half was 17%. And then that sack of Joe Burrow, or incompletion when he's about to get sacked at the end of the game, that won the game for the Rams, was 24.4, taking the Bengals obviously down to 0%.
All right, and to review the best fourth down coaching decisions from these games, we've got a little graphic for that as well. We've already covered all of these decisions, but the third was Zach Taylor when Joe Burrow scrambled up the middle for a 4-yard gain.
Yep, that was number 3. Number 2 was the one early in the first quarter. The Bengals' first drive, 3.7%. They didn't convert, but the pre-snap win probability gain was 3.7. And then the number 1, we covered Sean McVay with the great call that ended up winning them the game on that touchdown drive, was 5.8% in win probability.
And then the 2 bad decisions by McVay, which we also already covered. 4th and 7 on the Cincinnati 49 when he punted. This is when he's down 20-16. And 4th and 4 on his own 41. I think that's wrong where it says Rams 35. It should be Cincinnati 49 or.
Yes, Cincinnati 49, the 4th and 7. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, these, he punts a little too much, but it's hard to slag him for it too badly, given how bad, any estimate we may have made of what to take off of their offensive DVOA in the model for losing Beckham might have been too low, because their offense without Beckham and Higbee, no Beckham, no Higbee. It's the cascade effect, right? The more receivers you lose, the bigger a problem it becomes. Like the first one gone is bad. The second one gone is worse. The third one gone is even worse because you're getting lower and lower and lower into your backups. Although Bryson Hopkins, like, let's give some respect here. The backup, he's their third tight end. And with Kendall Blanton got injured and Tyler Higbee injured, Bryson Hopkins really stepped up in this game. Surprise.
Yeah, and at least it wasn't, fourth and one, fourth and two punts, field goals we're seeing here. Again, like to your point, fourth and mediums, a 4 and a 7. It just those numbers, the 5 and the 2.9, people might call us on, which is fine. It's just based on our assessment of these two teams. The Rams offense being strong in DVOA. Cincinnati's defense isn't great. I think they were middle of the pack with the regular season and playoffs combined.
Very average.
You're going to see some different numbers on here between, ESPN. Ben Baldwin has some different ones as well. But ours is just very strongly in favor of teams who think they convert a lot more than people really realize too. You don't see them go for it, so you don't know. But when you're looking at 3rd and 7s as kind of a proxy for a 4th and 7, because a lot of times that's essentially a 4th down, those are converted a lot more than people would really expect. Not saying they convert those a lot, maybe 1 out of 3. But based on our assessment of these two teams, we like the Rams to go for it in those situations.
All right. Do you have anything else to sum up the Super Bowl? Did you have any particularly good bets that hit? Did you have any particular favorite commercials?
Commercials, man. I liked. Which one? The Guy Fieri one I thought was pretty funny. I was trying to figure out why they were dressed the way they were, and they go back like mayor, and you realize it's him. I thought that was pretty good. I was kind of working on a lot of different things throughout the game, so didn't get to pay attention to as many of them as I would have liked
here.
to.
I liked Arnold Schwarzenegger as Zeus with Selma Hayek as Hera.
I missed that one. So I found a website that has them all listed out. So I'm going to have to go back and watch what I missed. But all in all, it was a good game in the beginning, just like the Chiefs game. I thought, oh, great, here we go. And it was 13-3. I thought the Rams maybe were going to blow them out. One bet I wanted to make that I didn't was Odell Beckham first touchdown. I made that bet against the 49ers in the championship game. It didn't work. He scored, but it didn't work. I think he scored. And then this time around, I didn't do it. But hoping that Green Bay goes for that same all-in approach next year, which it sounds like they might do, and they can make it work just like the Rams did this year.
My ESPN best bets for this game were Tyler Boyd over, which hit, and the Joe Burrow over, which did not. All right. Super Bowl 46 is in the books. 56. Super Bowl 56 is in the books. Another season is done from Football Outsiders. Speaking of books, the next year's Football Outsiders Almanac will be in blue and yellow. That should be interesting. I want to thank everybody for watching these streams all throughout the season, and thank Ian for joining me on Mondays all throughout the season. We're going to have lots more content. We're really expanding what we're doing in the off season. So look for more draft content from Mike Tanier and Derek Klassen coming on Football Outsiders, as well as draft live streams talking about the 2022 draft. Look for my way too early DVOA projections coming later this week. Look for the Football Outsiders Awards results coming early next week. Look for our division preview live streams starting this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern with the NFC West. We'll start with the Super Bowl champions. Splash Play still going, talking about next year's best ball drafts, live at 2:30 today, I believe. So check those guys out as well.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of agreement with your DVOA early projections as well, right?
You think there's going to be a lot of agreement? Yes. Well, they're going to look a lot like the actual DVOA from this season, which means Cincinnati is going to be low.
Yep.
So I look forward to that discussion. And people are going to be like, why is Dallas so high? Because Dallas was so high during the regular season. What do you expect? Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us for these live streams. Keep joining us Wednesdays and Thursdays for the division previews. And watch Football Outsiders and our Twitter account and our Instagram and everything, Facebook, to find out when more of these streams and when the draft streams with Derek and Mike take place. And thanks everybody for watching, and have a good rest of your week. I'll talk to you Wednesday, 1 p.m.